I'm on my way to meet Will Cottrell, one of the founders of Brighton Energy.
This train terminates at Brighton.
So that's Met, that big tower there.
What's that?
That's the college we're gonna.
Oh, is it? So
Yeah.
you've got solar on the top of that?
It's not that room. It's just done an extension that you can't see.
Okay.
But
So this is the place where we're basically headed. This huge building.
yeah, it's a sort of vocational college. So 16 to 18-year-olds
Yeah.
who probably aren't going to university tend to do more practical stuff like mechanics, or
Yeah.
there's an aircraft maintenance training course, this kind of thing. So yeah, the more vocational type of college rather than a A-level college.
Yeah.
And this is one of 4 sites. Then they've got 4 sites around town
Right.
doing this, and we've done all 4. Solar with them.
So how does that work with them? Basically, do you sell them the energy that they use?
Yeah, so we generate electricity with the solar panels,
Yeah.
and we sell that electricity to them at a sort of cheap rate.
Yeah.
So typically they pay 12, 13, 14p from the grid, and we're charging them, I think, 9p. So
That's
any
a massive saving.
yeah, they'll be saving. Met here will be saving maybe £4,000 or £5,000 a year on their electricity bill.
Yeah.
I think in the property or the maintenance.
So you need
Yeah.
access to the roof, do you?
Yeah,
So how many sites all across Brighton have you got now?
62.
62.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot.
And do you like?
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Should we give up?
Yeah, do you want to sign in or anything?
Sorry? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you will need to sign in. You won't have to run under the jackets and stuff.
Have we got? You guys busy at the moment?
Yeah, very busy.
Okay.
It's a fire exit, so it's always open.
Thanks a lot.
Cool.
Cheers. Wow.
The roof is your oyster.
That's a great one.
Yeah, Dan's here too. Looking at starting up a similar organisation to us
Oh, okay.
in
Yeah.
London.
Yeah. Well, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Got plenty of roof up here for it, haven't you?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So, is it all the energy for the building that you get from this?
It's not all the energy, no, but it's a great contribution.
Yeah.
When you consider, like, this is all new. The bits on the wings, actually, that was part of our new build.
Yeah.
But this stuff here is all Brighton Energy.
Yeah. It's really good. So, do you know what proportion of the energy you're getting?
Not off the top of my head, no. I wasn't realised I was being interviewed on
Oh,
this.
sorry about
It's
that.
about it's about 10 or 20%.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, it's a big electricity user.
10 or 20% from the
Yeah.
your panels.
Yeah.
And is anything going back in the grid from there?
I wouldn't have thought so. No, it's been all used today. And I don't sell it when. I mean, how many students are here?
At the moment, about 500.
Right. So it's a lot of. There's a lot of
Yeah.
quite high electricity.
Yeah.
I mean, you compare this to something like a primary school. We've got 15 primary schools around the city, and primary schools we usually can power about sort of 80-90% of their energy. Something like that.
Yeah.
Secondary school is about 50%, and
Right.
a college like this, it seems to be about 10 or 20%. So I mean, as the kids get older, they're doing more stuff, they're using more power. So yeah, it depends on
Oh,
the
I
type
see.
of building.
Right. So, in other words, well, if you had more space, you could be giving them more energy.
Good to yeah.
There's more roof.
Yeah.
What about the roof up there? Is that?
There is roof up there. The trouble is we've got a lot of comms up there.
Oh, have you?
So getting to work up there is very tricky.
Yeah.
Because of course, the vibrations, the
health and safety around
Well,
those.
it's a health and safety around those comms. You just can't get anywhere near them.
Oh,
Unfortunately, the entrance hatch is just by them, and then working by them is a no-no.
Is there a lift gear up there as well?
There's not lift. There's lift gear to the 11th floor, but then there's above that.
Oh, okay.
So of course, but there's no lift to that floor as well. So getting everything there would be an extra
Oh right, okay.
up the steps. I think we did look at, didn't we? Putting that there.
Yeah. But it's, I mean, that's one of the considerations: cost, getting the things up there, what sort of access there is. Is there edge protection up there?
No.
So you've got to put in edge protection.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, here you've got walls and things, so you can't just walk off them. But there's things like that to consider as well. When you,
Yeah.
I should point out as well, Dan's a filmmaker as well as
Yes.
starting an energy company.
When you can tell,
You can tell that,
you
can't
can tell a filmmaker because they're always filming. Whatever's going on.
And that's why it's nice to have a little.
I'm Will Cottrell, and I'm chairman of Brighton Energy Co-op, and we're standing on the roof of Met College in Brighton today on the Pelham Street site, their new build here, with 300 of our solar panels that we put on here 2 months ago. So yeah, these things are the solar panels that we use. They're Longi 375 watt panels, and as you mentioned, you know, there's seagull crap on these panels, and this is a fact of life here in Brighton. You know, we factor that into our models when we work out what we think they're going to produce in the real world.
Yeah.
Beyond what's the sort of laboratory or the AI might think they could produce. So things like getting seagull dirt on them is part of that, and it doesn't affect it dramatically. It gets washed off whenever it rains next. It's due to rain later in the week. So each one is connected in various strings. There's about 20 different strings of solar panels on here, and yeah, they power. One of these panels is 375 watts. So what that means is it's probably enough to boil a kettle at the moment in this kind of sunshine.
So, like, you mean it could do, like, if you plugged a kettle into it now, it would boil the kettle?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you could say across this whole roof there's probably enough for 300 kettles to be boiled.
All right.
So it's quite a lot of power, especially in this kind of sunlight. I mean, when winter comes around and it's overcast, you certainly couldn't boil a kettle from them. You know, you might as well switch them off, to be honest. But days like today, they're operating at full capacity, and there's tons of power coming out of them. Oh, you can't quite see it there.
What is it?
This is a power optimizer. So the system that we use on here is the inverters, which switch the DC power from the solar panels to AC power, which we use at home.
Yeah.
Are called inverters. So it inverts DC to AC. So they're down in the building. There's 5 of them here, and they communicate with these things in here, which are called power optimizers. So you'd have to come here to see it. It's a little black box that sits. It's this thing here.
Okay, so it's like a black box with ribs type of thing.
Yes. And those ribs can diffuse heat.
Okay.
That's a sort of safety feature, which basically, if there's a problem with the panel, in old systems that could shut out 20 panels because of the way that the panels are configured.
Right.
So if we've got a problem with the panel, even though it doesn't happen very often, the optimizer will cut out that panel and leave the other 19 panels operating. So it's one of these kind of new fancy.
That's good. And does it does it communicate to tell you which one's gone out or anything?
Yeah. So online we can go down to every panel. We've got 20,000 solar panels across the city, and we can see every single panel, and at any moment in time know what this panel is generating. So at the moment, if I sort of shadow this panel, if I went online and looked at it, this would show less output than that panel there, and that optimizer would think, okay, maybe there's a problem with this panel, I'm going to close it down and keep the others going. So yeah, we have a very kind of granular, we're lost in data sometimes, you know, there's a lot of data. I'll show you something. The weakest point in in a solar system, the panels are pretty durable, there's no moving parts, very rarely see panels go wrong. The weakest point is something like this, which is a MC4 connector. So this is what comes out the back of the solar panels and goes into the next one, so it connects them all together. So that's fine, you know, it's a very durable bit of plastic, but what happens is that if you get wet into these joins here, or maybe a seagull craps on these things, then it starts to degrade this connection. And eventually the connection the metal inside will start to disconnect because it's getting worn away, and then you'll get something called an arc, which is a high voltage leap across that joint.
Okay.
And that is what can cause a sort of spark in the thing. So that's really what you don't want to happen. So one of the things that we really look at with our systems is these things and what's happening to these things.
Right.
So if they're sitting in puddles, for example, on the roof, or if they haven't been properly tucked away underneath the panel, out of the way of the seagulls and things like that,
Yeah.
then that's what we sort of put a lot of emphasis on.
Okay.
So that's kind of weak point to look out for building systems. I mean, these things themselves, they're very robust.
Yeah.
And we've had panels for 10 years on various roofs around the place, and it's really not the panels that goes wrong. It tends to be the cables. You know, they just degrade in sunlight or under the attentions of seagulls.
Yeah.
And it doesn't immediately show on any of the monitoring what's going on with it. You know, you have to really work out. I mean, I've run through systems with infrared cameras, for example. I kind of, if you shine an infrared camera at this, if there's a cell, these are all cells. If there's a cell that's not producing, or somehow the connection's broken between cells, that cell will be producing with nowhere to put the energy, so it'll get hot. So when you put an infrared camera on this, this will show up, and this will be bright yellow.
Oh, right.
Similarly in the cabling, if you've got a problem in the cables, if one of these is not working properly and there's the metal inside is not connected, it will show up as heat, so you'll get hot spots around these things. So diagnosing problems with the UV camera
Yeah.
can be quite can show you where the problem is, where you might not be able to see it in any other way,
Oh, right. Amazing.
which is fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you've got to get the right UV camera,
Yeah.
the right sensitivity of the UV camera.
So, what does it feel like when you come into a site like this, and you think, wow, you know, there's 300 panels here, and there's 20,000 panels across Brighton. You know,
I suppose I've had a sort of, it's a bit of a relationship thing with me and the panels. When we started, when we did our first big systems 8 years ago, I used to just sort of go onto those roofs and sort of commune with the solar panels and just sort of sit there for hours and look out over the city, and I wasn't quite sure why I did that. And it just seemed amazing, I suppose. And then I went through a period where I wouldn't visit the roofs. I just got used to it, and it was just became a kind of numbers game. And now I like these sites. It's somehow now we've got bigger. We're producing a lot of energy. I mean, on a day like today, we might be producing somewhere between 5 to 10% of Brighton's energy, and that's significant. You know, we're sort of getting faster at what we do.